How important from a coach is it to have those voices and those veterans that have had success in the NHL being able to, teach some of these young guys that are in this organization?
The Jabs, it's so huge to have that leadership group. I don't care if you're the Scotty Bowman, the John Cooper, the best coaches. If you don't have leadership as a coach in that room, it's really tough to coach. So, Todd's lucky he's got those four guys that have been there, done that, still got a lot of energy to win, still got a lot of miles to play, good miles to play for him, and have bought in. I mean, I'm sure the last couple of years haven't been fun for them because they want to win. And, the Kings had to make a decision. Hey, we got to kind of slow the process down and, get a bunch of draft picks and let's build this where we're going to be competitive every year. And they've actually kind of accelerated a little bit this year. They're right in the playoff spot. They're vying for the division. They're trying to get close to Vegas and Calgary. Yep. So they've done a nice job of kind of not rebuilding. They've kind of tweaked a little bit, but also staying in the hunt.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to another episode of Tradin Jabs. Joining me is former King, 18-year NHLer, NHL head coach, and current TNT analyst, Rick Tocchet. Thanks for joining the show.
I'm glad you reached out to me. This is going to be fun, Jabber.
Yeah, hey, no, I greatly appreciate it. But, as I mentioned, NHL head coach, you've been in the business for 13 years. You coached the Arizona Coyotes for the last 4 years. From an NHL perspective, especially coming from you as a coach, what has made the Kings so hard to play against this season?
Yeah, great question. I really give a lot of credit to Tom McClellan and his staff. I like the way their system is. I mean, their system is built for their roster. If you're Colorado, you probably have to play a little different. They probably have a different system. But I think what Todd's dealt and Blakey's given him some good young players with some old guards there with Kopitar and Doughty and Brown, some great leaders there, and Jonathan Quick. I think they're really good in the neutral zone. They last week they stifled the Coyotes in the neutral zone. They didn't give them a lot of chances. Maybe in the third period there were some times there they gave them a little bit. There were some grade A chances in the slot, but for the most part, they're pretty stifling. And I think it starts in neutral zone, and a lot of coaches overlook that sometimes. And I think Todd McClellan's a really good coach. He likes to coach from what I coach against him or the way he does coach. He likes to coach that neutral zone really well.
Yeah, you mentioned a few things in there that we'll kind of dive into. And that first thing is that game against Arizona. It was on TNT. You were on the panel covering the game. One of the things that you mentioned after the game is something I wrote down, and that was you really like the way that Todd has the Kings playing on the road. The Kings have been very good on the road. They've got a great record. Home, we're working on it, but hey, in terms of that road game, it's two different styles from a head coaching perspective. How do you explain, what Todd has going well in terms of the road work that they've been able to put up?
I think it's the mentality he has the team. They don't get antsy on the road. Like it seems like whether they're up 1-0 or down 1-0 or up 1-0, they don't get. Sometimes teams can get antsy. It's 1-0, they're down, and halfway through the game they start to press. Right, they start to make some bad pinches, or they try to open the game up. And I don't see that with LA. They're very comfortable in their own skin, who they are. Whether they're down 1 or 2-0, and that's the real mentality you want. That's, to me, is when you can get your team to have that demeanor. It goes a long way, and I think that's what Todd's done really well in that Kings team. I don't see an antsy team, regardless of the score early in the game.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and it's kind of a unique situation that Todd is in, along with the coaching staff, and that's having a number of, young prospects or guys that have a very bright future, but at the same time, on the macro side, being able to coach a team and have success. And you were in a very similar situation in Arizona. And for instance, the Kings have Quentin Byfield, and they've had a number of their top prospects up. And for you in Arizona, you had Clayton Keller. How did you manage, teaching and getting confidence and getting Clayton in the right situation while also focusing on being able to win as a team and be competitive?
Yeah, great question, because you want to build a winning culture, but you also want to make sure these young guys are put in good situations. You don't want to force them in the lineup. You don't want to force them into situations where they might fail a lot. And I think what Blakey's done and Luke Robitaille, with the help of Todd, is they've got a lot of draft picks. They've picked some really good players, and they're not forcing them in the lineup. Obviously Byfield is, he's a kid that where they got him in the third kind of hole role. Probably playing him anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes and trying to put him in good situations. They got some other guy prospects in the minors, and they're marinating down there. I agree with that. They haven't forced guys in, and that's only going to really help the Kings in the future. I think in Arizona with Clayton Keller, which he was an AHL kind of ready guy. Sometimes we had to rush players in because of whether it's ownership change or whatever. We had a little different reason to put guys in the line. I think the Kings are doing a nice job of like taking their time on certain guys. Clayton Keller is reaping the benefits right now. I mean, he's having a terrific year. It took him a while to understand the NHL game, but right now he's probably playing his best. He is playing his best hockey, and he's 3 goals off his career best. Yeah,
absolutely. Something that obviously you were able to instill in your time there. And as for the Kings, what I find interesting is that you mentioned that he's Quentin Byfield being able to sit in that 3 hole and be behind 2 veterans who are playing great hockey, and the rest of the prospects marinating in the AHL in Ontario and in the OHL and wherever they may be. But for you, from a coaching side of things, the Kings have 4 guys who still were on the 2012 and 14 Cups, and Doughty and Brown and Quickie and Kopi. How important from a coach is it to have those voices and those veterans that have had success in the NHL being able to, teach some of these young guys that are in this organization?
The Jabs, it's so huge to have that leadership group. I don't care if you're the Scotty Bowman, the John Cooper, the best coaches. If you don't have leadership as a coach in that room, it's really tough to coach. So, Todd's lucky he's got those 4 guys that have been there, done that, still got a lot of energy to win, still got a lot of miles to play, good miles to play for him, and have bought in. I mean, I'm sure the last couple of years haven't been fun for them because they want to win. And, the Kings had to make a decision. Hey, we got to kind of slow the process down and, get a bunch of draft picks, and let's build this where we're going to be competitive every year. And they've actually kind of accelerated a little bit this year. They're right in the playoff spot. They're vying for the division. They're trying to get close to Vegas and Calgary. Yep. So they've done a nice job of kind of not rebuilding. They've kind of tweaked a little bit, but also staying in the hunt. And having those 4 guys buying in is huge for Todd McLellan.
Those 4 guys obviously played on TNT just last week, and as well as the Kings. You go from behind the bench to behind the desk now as an analyst between periods and pregame, postgame, etc. What's the experience been like at TNT as someone who's now telling people about the game opposed to telling the players how to play?
Yeah, it's honestly like a team. I remember when I went tried out for the position, and the way they do things, it's actually like a team. They have philosophy on how they think they should broadcast sports or news or whatever, and the demeanor of the people, and then also trying to find the personalities. You can't have everybody the same. So if you look, we have Wayne Gretzky. He's kind of the godfather. He's a well-spoken. He's a very very positive guy. You got myself, who I'm not afraid to say my opinion. Obviously, Biz has added a lot to, he's the social media king, and he's an outlandish guy who just makes it unbalanced for everybody to be on their toes. And then Liam and Anson they're veteran players. They're the veteran guys. They've been in the business for 15 years doing this. So I just like the way we've all taken our piece as I call it like line mates. You have the mucker, you have the star, you have the grinder, you have the skilled guy, and that's no different than our panel and the way TNT wants us to broadcast it.
Yeah, it's a perfect analogy. You've got a little bit of everything, and guys who come from all different backgrounds within the sport. As for your experience, being on the call with the guys, Biz was on the show a few months ago, talking about some of his experiences at TNT. What are maybe some of the things that you've had positive experiences and opportunities to be able to call while you've been at TNT?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'll tell you, the fun part is I still talk to some GMs in the league and some coaches. They'll ask me about a player and stuff, but they always say, "We watch your show and it's funny to see what you do." So that's kind of rewarding when you get like an older general manager that's been in the game that he's saying, "Hey, I love watching this show. It's fun." So that's a fun thing. I actually like people though behind the scenes stuff, like just before the red light goes on and we're scrambling. Oh, do we have this? What are we doing now? Wayne will say, "What are we doing?" Like 2 seconds before the on. That's the funny part that I love to see. And then, the smashing the sticks, Liam, Rick Bonus, he was trying to slash a stick. He was mad at the ref. So we said, "Oh, let's try it." And it's not that easy to smash a stick anymore on concrete. Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even break the thing. But things like that, not afraid to tackle some tough issues, racism or diversity in sports and things like that, which they'll tackle. So, and then also have a goofiness to covering the game, trying to tackle and also having hockey IQ. Like we still have to talk hockey. Mm-hmm. People still want to understand the game, so it's a good balance, and that's what's the fun part behind the scenes is trying to kind of put the pieces together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You guys have brought in, a new life and a little bit of new blood in terms of the approach that hockey has, and it's definitely been great for the sport. But let's go back to you in your career. 18 years in the NHL. You spent parts of 2 seasons in LA from '94 to '96. What are some of those favorite memories as you look back at your time in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I remember getting there and. Just going to LA, I remember playing in the Forum and over the years and just not really know much about LA a little bit. And then I remember getting traded there, and I remember just the first bunch of games. I had gotten a couple of fights, I had some goals, I had some success, especially that first year. I scored 30 goals in a shortened season. I forget how many games, and the Kings fans were unreal. They really appreciated, they liked they liked the fighting, they loved the toughness, but they also loved the scoring, and it was a fun atmosphere at the Forum. I enjoyed my time there. Unfortunately, I think there was some ownership changes, and the team wasn't that great. And I know Barry Melrose got fired, so there's a little bit of things that didn't happen our way. And then getting a chance to play with Wayne, and living in the same neighborhood with him, that was a lot of fun. And being able to just live the LA, just experience LA, went to a couple of movie premieres and things like that were really cool. So, I know I was only there 2 years, but the fans were incredible. And still, when I go back there as a coach now, when I used to coach as a player, I mean, they always pack them in. They love their Kings, and they just, they can't wait for a Stanley Cup there in that city.
Yeah, the perks of living in LA, and no question the LA fan base is looking for another cup after having tasted it just 10 and 8 years ago. But yeah, you mentioned Gretz as a teammate. We all know how good he is. If he never scored a goal, he'd still lead the NHL all time in points. Is there a story or a memory where you can go back to of your time that you spent with him as a teammate that kind of just defines who he is as a person and a player?
There's so many. Earlier on when in the Canada Cup, when I was playing for Canada, I roomed with him, and I remember rooming him for about 3 weeks, and I just, he's the great. It was 1987. He was huge in Canada everywhere he went, and I just was amazed. There's only 24 hours in a day. He probably sleeps 8 hours a day. The other hours, he is so accommodating to people. Like everywhere he went, I would see things that he would do. Meet a family that has some hardship, or he would go visit in the hospital, or he had so many requests, but somehow, I don't know how he does it, he had time for everybody and still trying to be the greatest player in the world. Yeah. And trying to be that guy. So his time, his generosity, and the one thing with Wayne, I got to give him a lot of credit. He doesn't want to be treated like a superstar. Like when he's in the dressing room, he's open game, we know as hockey players, you played, we all like to chirp each other and he didn't like the hierarchy. Like, I'm Wayne Gretzky, so nobody, he's off limits. No, he wanted you to jab him or include him in the hijinks of a dressing room stuff. So that's what I really enjoyed. That sort of stuff. Guys giving it to Wayne before the game. It's really hard to cut him up before a game about his hockey play, but somehow we tried to figure something out. Like Marty McSorley would chirp him, "Hey Wayne, you're gonna go in a corner tonight." Hey, Wayne, when's the last hit you ever had? Like things like that. But Wayne loved it, and that's the sort of stuff that we used to, the behind the scenes stuff I used to love about Wayne.
That's great. A true testament to who he is.
Yeah.
Another teammate of yours in LA would be Rob Blake, the current general manager of our very own Kings. When you look at the way that he has helped build this team, not only for the present as they make a playoff run, but also for the future, what do you like about, the moves and the job that he's done as a whole?
What I'm impressed about, he's taken over a team that's won 2 Stanley Cups, and they weren't having success. So he had, there's a lot of adversity, a lot of pressure on him, right? And he hit it. I think he made a couple of signings early as a career, didn't pan out. He didn't panic. He had a game plan. He stuck with it, and now he's reaping the benefits. And the Kings fans will reap the benefits because of his perseverance. And I think to be in that chair, you gotta deflect criticism and meet it headway, head on. I mean. And I think that's what he's done. I'm really impressed with what he's done. He said, hey, we're going to take a step back. We got to get some draft picks. We got to draft well, put a good scouting team together. They've hit some of their draft picks with also trying, and especially now this year, being competitive. So it's not that they've been on a 7-8 year rebuild and they're still, at the bottom of the pile. They've gone through this rebuild, but now they're in the mix. They're going to be in the mix next year, and then they're going to be in the even stronger the year after that. So I think Blakey's done a great job during the adversity of this whole thing.
Yeah, and the last one here, you mentioned that the 4 guys that have won the Cups and the veterans on this team, they stuck through the quick rebuild and retooling phase, and they wanted to be competitive, and they weren't having fun. Especially Doughty was extremely vocal about that. Yeah. Well, they talked to management, and management listened. They, Rob and his team go out and make 2 big moves this offseason. And Victor Arvidsson, who had 2 goals in the game that you guys called just last week, and Philip Deneau, who's obviously been a tremendous offensive surprise, but defensively just, as all you can ask. What have you made in those 2 moves that Blake has made to bring in those 2 vets, but also guys that are, right in the middle of their careers?
Well, what's incredible to me is you just, the 4 guys that, at certain times probably talk to Blakey. It's a partnership, right? And Blakey's not scared to, include the players in a partnership. Hey, the players are, their concerns. Blakey listens to them, and then he goes out and acquires those 2 guys. Dadanu shut down a centerman that adds a 1-2 punch with Kopitar, which allows Byfield to play his role, right? And then Arvidsson, is a smart, energy player that can score some big goals for them that they needed in a secondary scoring role. So I love the fact that he listens to his players and not afraid to listen to his players who have a lot of stature. And like I said, they're reaping the benefits of it.
Yeah, well, a recipe for success so far for the Kings, and having Rick Tocchet on is a recipe for success for this show. Thanks so much for joining Tradin Jabs.
Anytime, man. You got my number. Love talking Kings hockey. Hopefully we talk where they're going in the playoffs, what round they're playing, or who they're playing the first round. Let's see.
Absolutely. No, we'll definitely reconnect, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Okay, buddy. Thanks.